that's facts. I'm still coming for a play. When I hear something, shut up, 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 shut up.
No, thank you. Please, take a seat, No, appreciate you. So, you need some help with good deck ideas? Listen, nothing to be embarrassed about. Men and women around your age, we need help with good deck ideas, alright? Nothing to be ashamed of. We all can't be as unique idea fertile as I am. It's all good. Today, we've got 3 incredibly unique deck ideas, whether that be commanders taken in a unique direction or commanders that are inherently unique. I don't know. You'll have to find out looking at. You can find timestamps on the timeline down below if you want to skip to a specific deck. And with that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let's jump into deck number 1. Unique deck number 1 is called Snakes Can't Walk, but Man Can They Roll. And the deck's based around Chishiro the Shattered Blade. Chishiro is 2, a red and a green for a 4/4. Whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit token with Menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each modified creature you control. I just realized if the image is going to pop up over my head and I'm going to blur, no point in me moving off to the side like that, so here I am. So how are we going to utilize this? Well, the fact that it doesn't say whenever you cast an aura or equipment, it says whenever they enter. I thought this is a perfect deck to bust out the roll tokens from Wilds of Eldraine. Now, these roll tokens are enchantment auras that will enter attached to a creature you control. There's a total of 8 different kinds of auras ranging from protection all the way to giving trample. The only downside with these auras is that if you put one of these auras onto a creature that already has a roll on it, you'll have to sacrifice the roll that was previously on it. Making rolls, not great because they're not stackable. You're going to have to go wide. If only there was a commander where just having these enchantment auras enter would create tokens that we could put more of these rolls onto. Perfect commander. Every time we create one of these roll tokens, we get a new 2/2. So, create a roll token. Go ahead and slap that on Chishiro. Chishiro creates a 2/2. Guess what happens when you play your next roll token? You throw it on your 2/2. And then you make another 2/2 because an enchantment just entered. All the while, Chishiro's throwing 1/1 counters on all your modified stuff, which is going to be anything with a roll token on it. We've got Become Brutes, which is 1 and a red for a sorcery. Up to 2 target creatures each gain haste. For each of those creatures, create a monster roll token. The monster roll gives enchanted creature +1/+1 and trample. Charming Scoundrel is 1 and a red for a 1/1. When it enters, choose 1, discard a card, draw a card, create a treasure token, or create a wicked roll token attached to target creature you control. The wicked roll providing +1/+1, and when the creature dies, ping each opponent for 1. Curse of the Werefox is 2 and a green for a sorcery. Create a monster roll token attached to target creature, then that creature fights another creature. Cut In is 3 and a red to deal 4 damage to target creature, and then you create a Young Hero roll token attached to up to 1 target creature you control. The Young Hero roll gives whenever this creature attacks, if its power is 3 or less, give it a 1/1 counter. Embereth Veteran is a 1 red 2/1 that you can sacrifice to give a Young Hero roll token to target creature you control. Say that 4 times fast, jeez. Ferocious Werefox is a 3 and a green 4/3 with trample, but it's also got the adventure side for 1 and a green to give a monster roll token to one of your creatures. Giant Inheritance is probably the best one out of the bunch, being 4 and a green for an aura. Enchant creature gets +5/+5, and whenever this creature attacks, create a monster roll token attached to up to 1 target attacking creature. When Giant Inheritance is put into the graveyard, return it to its owner's hand. So this thing keeps coming back, keeps providing buffs. That's perfect in this deck. Merry Bards is 2 and a red for a 3/2. When Merry Bards enters the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, create a Young Hero roll token attached to target creature you control. We all know Monstrous Rage, 1 red for a 2/0, give it a monstrous roll, instant speed, really good. Red Tooth Genealogist is 2 and a green for a 2/3. When Red Tooth Genealogist enters the battlefield, create a Royal roll token attached to target creature. The Royal roll token provides a +1/+1 and ward 1. Royal Treatment gives target creature hexproof until end of turn at instant speed, and then attaches a Royal roll token attached to it, which that's some actually really good protection on that card. I might just run that natty outside this deck. Twisted Fealty is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. Create a wicked roll token attached up to 1 target creature. So not only an act of treason, but you also get a wicked roll token. And then Witch's Mark is a discard a card, draw 2, create a wicked roll token. So yeah, these are all our ways to create roll tokens. So we're going to be using these cards to create roll tokens. That's going to be triggering our Chishiro to create 2/2s that we can then put our next roll token onto, and then we repeat this process. Outside of just the massive amount of 2/2s that are going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger with Chishiro, this deck plans to win a couple of ways. One of them is creature ETBs, because every time we have a roll token come into play, we're getting a 2/2 from Chishiro, and running stuff like Impact Tremors, where whenever a creature ETBs, each opponent loses 1. is going to be really good in this deck. We run a total of 6 of these pinger cards. We run Agate Instigator, which is 1 in a red for a 1/3 with Offspring for 1 in a red. Whenever another creature enters, it does 1 damage to each opponent, so you could potentially be doing 2 damage, which is incredibly good. General Crete is 2 in a red for a 2/2. Whenever 1 or more goblins you control attacks, create a 1/1 goblin. Whenever another creature you control enters, General Crete does 1 damage to each opponent. So not only will General Crete create more 1/1s when it attacks, and then those 1/1s will make more 1/1s, it's just also an impact tremors on a creature, which is great. Of course, we've got Molten Gatekeeper being a 2 in a red, impact tremors on a 2/3 creature with Unearth for 1 red. Shocking Sharpshooter being a 2-drop 1/3 reach with impact tremors stapled to it. And Witty Roastmaster being a 2 in a red 3/2 with impact tremors stapled to it. So while we're bashing face with all these snakes, having these snakes ping our opponents, that's going to be pretty much the bread and butter of this deck. We also have board buffs to, enhance this strategy even more. Berserker's Onslaught, giving all of our attacking creatures double strike, is incredibly good. Enduring Courage being a 2 and 2 red 3/3 that provides a 2/0 and haste to all of our creatures when they ETB. Yeah, if we can drop like 3 roll token creators in a turn, that'll make us 3 2/2s with Chishiro. And then Enduring Courage will make them all, because the roll tokens most of the time give +1/+1, will make them all 5 3s with haste. Goreclaw makes all of our creatures we cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast, which is okay in a couple uses in this deck. But whenever a creature we control with power 4 or greater attacks, it gets 1/1 and trample until end of turn. And with Chishiro, our little spirit tokens are going to quickly get bigger than 4/4s. Gratuitous Violence is 2 and 3 red for an enchantment. If a creature you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. We've also got Xenagos, God of Revels, being a 3 red and a green 6/5 for an indestructible. It has the whole devotion turns on thing. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X, where X is that creature's power. Which in this deck, again, you're turning all your Chishiro 2/2s into 5/3s with this, essentially. Really, really good. And then Unnatural Growth being 1 and 4 green for an enchantment. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until the end of combat. Yeah, so with all this pinging, all the token creation, all the board buffs and double strike, it's incredibly aggressive. It's going to bring home games pretty quickly once Chishiro hits play. And since we're all inning on roll tokens, it gets us some access to some really cool quote-unquote Enchantress cards that trigger on ETB. So stuff like Composer of Spring is great in this deck, being a 1 and a green 1/3. Whenever an enchantment ETBs on our side, put a land from our hand into play tapped. If you control 6 or more enchantments, instead you may put a creature or land from our hand into play tapped. Eidolon of Blossoms will draw us a card when an enchantment ETBs. Elvish Activist will do the same, but only once a turn. Citizen Champion will do the same and also get a 1/1 counter. Infernal Phantom is an interesting one that I actually kind of like in here, being a 3 and a red 2/3. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, Infernal Phantom gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Again, you drop 3 rolls on a turn, this thing goes up to an 8/3, and then you bash someone for 8. They're probably going to either chump block it or chump it or block it and try to kill it, but if they do that, they take 8 to the dome anyway. And then we've also got Nessian Wanderer being a 1 and a green 1/3. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put them into your hand, put the rest at the bottom. So just helps guarantee land drops. Also, good time to bring up the funnest and best card in this deck, Confusion in the Ranks, being a 3 and 2 red enchantment, so interacts with our whole enchantment shtick. Whenever an artifact, creature, or enchantment comes into play, its controller chooses target permanent with the same type as that card and exchanges control of those permanents. Yeah, all we've got over here is 2/2 snakes, okay? So whenever a snake ETB is on our side, we can go ahead and be like, hey, I want to take your creature, you take my snake. Also, we have really easy to create roll tokens, which are enchantments ETBing. So we can go, hey, this enchantment aura is still going to stay on my guy, but you have control of it now, and I'll take your Sigil of the Empty Throne, I think. Thank you. Appreciate it. Busted in here. On so many levels, such a good card in this deck. Here's a look at the deck's mana ramp, card draw, and removal, as well as the deck's board interaction and mana base, and I'm feeling generous. Here's a look at 3 test opening hands to see if this is a deck you'd be interested in playing. If you want to check this deck out in full, there's going to be a link to this one, plus the other 2 we're going to talk about today down below. And with that, let's move on to deck number 2. Deck number 2 is called An Elemental Walks into a Bar, or was it a counter? And the deck is based around Skullbrier, the Walking Grave. Skullbrier is a black and a green for a 1/1 with haste. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on him, and counters remain on Skullbrier as it moves from any zone other than a player's hand or library. Skullbrier is an old school classic. It's a powerhouse commander. It's still pretty good. When it first came out, it's really gross to play against, not fun. all there was to do when it first came out was pretty much put 1/1 counters on it. You're like, hey, I'm gonna throw 1/1 counters on Skullbrier. He's gonna get more from smacking people. He's gonna keep them. He keeps coming back strong. Awesome. We're still gonna do that a little bit. There's been a lot of new counters that have came out, and this isn't saying, hey, look at this unique strategy I've come up with. If you look at Skullbrier lists nowadays, they pretty much have all the new ways to add counters. I just wanted to talk about it. I think Skullbrier has now become an incredibly unique commander that I wanted to talk about with the introduction of all these new counter types, because as Skullbrier says, he does not lose counters when he moves zones. Doesn't say 1/1 counters, it says counters. So let's talk about some of the fun types of counters we can give him. Alchemist Assistant is a 1 and a black 2/1 with lifelink that has Renew. You can exile it from your graveyard for 1 and a black to put a lifelink counter on target creature, activate as a sorcery. Blood Curdle is 3 and a black to destroy target creature and put a menace counter on target creature you control. Daring Fiendbonder is a 3 and a black 5/1 haste that attacks each combat. You can exile it from your graveyard for 1 and a black to put an indestructible counter on target creature, activate as a sorcery. All of these stay on Skullbrier, which is nuts. Duskmane Mentor. Go ahead and throw a lifelink counter on something when it ETBs. Family's Favor, 2 and a green enchantment. Whenever you attack, put a shield counter on target attacking creature. Until end of turn, it gains when this creature deals combat damage. You remove a shield counter. If you do, draw a card. Fully Grown is a 2 and a green instant that provides +3/+3 until end of turn, but then you put a trample counter on target creature. Hornbash Mentor is 2 and a green for a 3/3 that enters and puts a trample counter on target creature. Probably the best card in the deck is Karsai Revenant. I think I said that right. For 1 and 2 black for a 3/3 flying Death Touch lifelink. You can exile it from your graveyard for 2 and a black to put a flying, a Death Touch, and a lifelink counter on target creature, activated as a sorcery. Yeah, so GG. No, yeah, we can move on to game 2, because I ain't fucking with that. I ain't dealing with a Skullbrier that comes in as a 14/14 flying Death Touch lifelinker for 2, 4, 6 mana. Nah, I'm alright on that. I'm straight. Slippery Bogbonder is a 3 and a green 3/3 flash hexproof. When it enters, put a hexproof counter on target creature. Then move any number of counters from among creatures you control onto that creature. So if we got some counters we want Animar to have, move it on to him. Sudden Spinnerets is a green for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+3 until end of turn. Put a reach counter on that creature. Untap it. The new Summon Magus Sisters from Final Fantasy is perfect for this deck, being 4 and a green for a 5/5 haste that has a Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. You choose one at random. You either put 3 1/1 counters on target creature, put a shield counter on target creature, or have target creature you control fight another creature. All of which in this deck, we're kind of fine hitting all those. We probably prefer the 1/1s or the shield counters, but hey, if we gotta fight, we gotta fight. Titan of Industry is a great bomb in this deck, being a 4 and 3 green 7/7 reach trample. When it enters, choose to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Target player gains 5, create a 4/4 rhino, or put a shield counter on target creature you control. So shield counter plus whatever else you need. Titanoth Rex is a 9-drop 11/11 trample that you can cycle for 1 and a green to put a trample counter on something. Unexpected Fangs is a 1 and a black instant that puts a 1/1 counter and a lifelink counter on target creature. And Vraska Joins Up is a black and a green enchantment that puts a Death Touch counter on all your creatures. And whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's nasty work. That's like when I see someone make a similar video to one that I just made, and I subscribe to that person on purpose, and it's me outside their window with like Prowler music, just watching them make that content. Just, oh, I know. Now, outside of these unique counters, we've also got the classic 1/1 counter makers, which we run plenty of. Court of Garenbrig is a 1 and 2 green enchantment that gives you Monarch when it ETBs. At the beginning of your upkeep, distribute 2 1/1 counters among 2 creatures. Then if you're the Monarch, double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature you control. The previously mentioned Duskfang Mentor can also pay 1 and a black to tap and put a 1/1 counter on a creature we control with lifelink. Evolution Sage is a 2 and a green 3/2 that whenever a land enters, we can proliferate. So, you know, with most of those other counters we talked about, maybe not including shield counters. It's not really useful to double them, so most of the time we're going to be using Populate to double 1/1 counters. Feign Death is incredibly good in this deck, providing a whenever this creature dies, return it to the field effect for 1 black at instant speed, but it also returns with a 1/1 counter on it. Fight Rigging is a 2 and a green enchantment with Hideaway 5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Then if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you can play the Hideaway card for free. Hydra's Growth is a 2 and a green enchantment that gives a 1/1 counter to the creature when it enters, and then it doubles its 1/1 counters on your upkeep, which can get extremely out of control with Skullbrier. Ordeal of Nylea is a 1 and a green enchantment aura that provides a 1/1 counter whenever the creature attacks, but then sacks itself when it hits 3 1/1 counters, and when you sacrifice Ordeal of Nylea, search your library for 2 basic lands and put them into play. Ozolith the Shattered Spire, of course, providing 1/1 counters for 1 and a green and tapping, cycling for 2, and if 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on something, put another 1/1 counter on that thing. Power Fist is an absolute unit, being 1 and a green for an equipment that equips for 2. Equip creature has trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put that many 1/1 counters on it. Definite win con in here. Ryan, Last of Abzan is great in here, being 1 a black and a green for a 0/0 that enters with 3 1/1 counters. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more 1/1 counters on it, you may put that many 1/1 counters on target creature. Yeah, you don't have to remove them or anything. Your Skullbrier still keeps its counters. Rayam just also puts those counters on something else when he dies, making it even more miserable to deal with Skullbrier. Ring of Colonia is a 2-drop equipment that equips for 1. Equip creature has trample, and as long as it's green, it gets a 1/1 counter on your upkeep, which we will take it. The brand new Sphere Grid from Final Fantasy is really good, not to be confused with Tier Grid. For 1 and a green, we get an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on that creature, and creatures you control with 1/1 counters on them have reach and trample. We already talked about Summon Magus Sisters and Unexpected Fangs, and the deck also runs Undying Malice, which is just another one of those, if a creature dies, bring it back, with a 1/1 counter card. Now, as far as protection's concerned, we talked about most of it in talking about the other 2 categories. We missed Tyvar's Stand, being an X and a green instant. Target creature gets +X/+X, hexproof and indestructible. You can just play this for 1 green to get the hexproof or indestructible, or you can just pump it full of mana to end the game with Skullbrier. We also missed Whisper Silk Cloak, being a 3-drop equipment that equips for 2. Equip creature can't be blocked and has Shroud, and of course Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. We've got a huge Skullbrier with a ton of unique counters that don't leave it, ways to protect Skullbrier. All we're really missing is a little evasion here. We run Brotherhood's Regalia, which is a 2-drop equipment that equips to legendary creatures for 1. Equip creature has Ward 2, is an assassin, and cannot be blocked. We also run Key to the City, being a 2-drop artifact you can tap to discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn, and whenever this artifact becomes untapped, you can pay 2. If you do, draw a card. We run Trailblazer's Boots, being a 2-drop equipment that equips for 2 that gives equipped creature non-basic land walk, and the aforementioned Whisper Silk Cloak, providing unblockable. Oh, and how can I forget Rogue's Passage? Gotta run Rogue's Passage, especially in this deck. Disgusting. And then, just like the first deck, 1 card that's just too gross to not run in here. Jared Golgari Lichlord, being a 2 black, 2 green, 2/2, gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. Pay 1 a black and a green, sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Sacrifice a swamp and a forest. Return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, so you can now fling your Skullbrier, if it gets big enough, at each opponent. And guess what? We don't care, because that sacrificing Skullbrier will just send him to the command zone. He keeps all of his counters. Play him again, just as big as he was. Oh, and it costs 3 mana to do that? And we're in green? We could probably do it again. We'll probably fling him again. Oh, fling him a 3rd time? Why not? I suppose I might. Here's a look at the deck's mana ramp, the deck's card draw, the deck's removal, board interaction, and the deck's mana base, as well as a look at 3 starter hands for the deck to see if it's a deck you'd be interested in. There's a link to this deck and all the decks we'll talk about today down below. And with that, let's move on to deck number 3. Deck number 3 is called My Spirit Animal? Big Bird. This deck is based around Zinnia, Valley's Voice. Zinnia is a blue, a red, and a white for a 1/3 flying. Zinnia gets +X/+O, where X is the number of other creatures you control with power 1, and creatures you cast have offspring 2, meaning you can pay an additional 2 to make a 1/1 copy of that creature when you cast it. This is a spirit tribal deck, and it's not like the normal spirits. It's not this new age spirit. I mean, it is. There's some of the new age spirit stuff here, but I think when people build spirit decks, they like grossly overlook the Kamigawa spirit cycle. Like the when you play an arcane or spirit cards from Kamigawa, they're not half bad. I feel like they could interact really good, especially in an offspring deck. So I guess the best place to start with this deck is the type of spirit triggers that we're going to be running, because almost all of them are spirits in and of themselves. So they're also going to be the spirits we're playing to trigger the spirit triggers. Trust me, this is the best way. This is the best place to start in the deck. You've got stuff like Yuki Onna, who is 3 and a red for a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, and whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may return Yuki Onna to your hand. So, some pretty okay artifact removal that gets sent back to your hand when you play a spirit. Sure, but like, what else are we working with? Waxmane Baku is 2 and a white for a 2/2. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put a Kai counter or a key. You may put a key counter on Waxmane Baku. Pay 1, remove X key counters from Waxmane Baku, tap X target creatures. That's not bad at all. Pay 1 mana, remove 3 counters from this thing, tap 3 things when you're going to be playing a ton of spirits. Not bad. Nico Onna is the same thing as Yuki Onna, except it removes an enchantment when it ETBs. Kiri Onna is the same as Nico and Yuki Onna, except it bounces a creature back to its hand when it ETBs. Earthshaker is a 4 and 2 red 4/5. Whenever we play a spirit or arcane spell, it deals 2 damage to each creature without flying. Celestial Kirin is 2 and 2 white for a 3/3 flying. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, destroy all permanents with the spell's converted mana cost. Kalo Jushi is 1 and 2 blue for a 2/2. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may put a key counter on Kalo Jushi. At the end of turn, if there are 2 or more key counters on him, you may flip it. And when it flips, it becomes a 3/4 spirit with remove a key counter from it, counter target spell unless its owner pays to. Yeah, so if you can spam enough spirits while this thing is still Kalo Jushi, you can have it flip and have a ton of those counters on it, and then it's just a counter spell machine, which seems really, really annoying and good. And then finally, Breath of the Sleepless is 3 and a blue for an enchantment. You may play spirits as though they had flash, and whenever you cast a creature spell during an opponent's turn, tap up to 1 target creature. So in this deck, whenever you play a spirit during an opponent's turn. Now, there's more to talk about with this deck, but imagine any of the things we just talked about with Zinnia. All of those things have an additional 2 mana, and they get a 1/1 token that enters with them. Even something as simple as Nico Onna becomes 4 and a white for a 2/2 that enters, destroys an enchantment, a 1/1 that enters, destroys an enchantment, and then you can bounce the other original one that you played anytime you play a spirit to play it again, and then Offspring again. So you're blowing up all the enchantments. Same thing with Yuki Onna, same thing with Kiri Onna. You're bouncing creatures, you're destroying enchantments, you're destroying artifacts, and you're netting these Offsprings every time you do it, which I think is really sick in this deck. Like Waxmane Baku, you have 2 of these in play. Every time you play a spirit, each of these Waxmanes gets counters, and then you can pay 1 for 1 Waxmane, remove all of its counters to tap someone's full board, do it again to someone else's full board with your other 1/1 Waxmane. Am I like insane, or is this kind of good? Is this not bad? Of course, since it's a spirit deck, we run a small package of cards to help buff our spirits. Dragskull Captain is a 1, a blue, and a white for a 2/2 flying that gives our other spirits 1/1 in hexproof, helping protect and utilize our spirits more. Hoffrey Ghostforge is a 3, a white, and a red for a 4/5. Spirits we control have +1/+1, have trample, and haste, which is really good. It's also got, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types, and it has, when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to your graveyard. That's a pretty good buff. Actually, we get all of our spirits again if we lose them to combat or destroy spells, and also we get a huge 1/1 trample and haste buff to everything. Yeah, sure. Especially with Offspring, we can now have haste Offspring with trample and haste. Yeah, sure. And then finally, Supreme Phantom is just a classic 1 and a blue, 1/3 flying. Other spirits get 1/1. Why not? Keep in mind, all 3 of these are creatures, so they also can be Offspringed with our commander, and then we're getting 2 of these things that are providing buffs. I mean, I guess Hoffrey can't because he's legendary, but Dragskull Captain, having 2 of those, not bad. Having 2 Supreme Phantoms, sure. We've also got a small package of spirit triggers that are more on the offensive side, which when paired with some of these spirit buff cards can become pretty good. Cunning Bandit is 1 and 2 red for a 2/2. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, put a key counter on it. At the end of your turn, if there are 2 or more key counters, transform it into a 5/2 spirit with remove a key counter from it, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Yeah, 5/2 is pretty big, and then being able to remove like 4 or 5 key counters to steal that many creatures? I cannot believe these key counter cards don't say, like, with mana cost equal to the amount of key counters you remove. No, it just says that many. Yeah. Sure, if you got 4 key counters on there, go ahead. Gain control of 4 creatures until end of turn for removing 4 of them, sure. Of course, we got Maleficent, Restless Revenant, who is 5, a white, and a blue for a 4/4 that costs 1 less for each spirit we control. Flying, whenever it or another non-token spirit we control dies or deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 white spirit token. And then one of my personal favorites in the deck, Skyfire Kirin, is 2 and 2 red for a 3/3 flying. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you may gain control of target creature with that spell's converted mana cost until end of turn. So we just get Axe of Treasons for playing our spirits on top of all these other effects. Now, before we move into the small 2-card package of like the spirit utility ETBs that really don't fit in the control package, they don't fit in the offensive package. I want to bring up something about the deck really quick. If you're going through the list on Moxfield, you'll notice that 9 out of the 10 pieces of removal we run are enchantment auras. And if you're like, that's oddly specific, I did that because 1, that opens us up to running Entity Tracker, which will draw us a card whenever we play an enchantment, and Mesa Enchantress, which will draw a card whenever we play an enchantment. Calm down. That's not the only reason I did it. The main reason I did it is because this deck runs Tallow Wisp, which is 1 and a white for a 1/3. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, you get to search your library for an enchantment aura and reveal it and put it into your hand. So in this deck, every time you play a spirit, you get to pick one of your removal pieces and put it into your hand. Which to me is like, why wouldn't I run that little synergy package if it's there right in front of me? I gotta. And the second card in this little 2-card utility spirit package is Horizon Seed, being 4 and a white for a 2/1. Whenever you play a spirit or arcane spell, regenerate target creature. Which this one, way more niche. Like, I'll be the first to say it. Like, pretty much the only way you can use this is if you get the other card that gives your creatures flash. I don't know. I kind of like him. But I know what your first thought is here. You're looking at this deck and you're like, the deck's idea is cool. I like the themes. It's very, very heavy mana cost wise. Like, most of these are like 4, 5, 6 drops. Probably not going to run because of that, especially having to pay 2 more for the Offspring on top of that. It's just not going to work. Well, the deck runs plenty of mana ramp. Let me see the specific number here because I know it's a good amount. I think it's 14. The deck runs 15 pieces of mana ramp, 3 of those being cost reducers. So stuff like Cloud Key, when you play it, you name creature. Creatures cost 1 less to play. Herald's Horn, when it comes into play, you name spirit. Spirits cost 1 less to play. Urza's Incubator, you play it, name a creature type, you name spirit. Spirits cost 2 less to play. So with all these normal mana ramp and cost reducers, the idea is you are going to be playing creatures not only quicker than other people, but at reduced cost, which should give you enough wiggle room and excess mana to use to be able to use the Offspring effect. We also run a small 4-card board protection package because we're going to be going wide. There's going to be a lot of spirits being made just passively because of, well, most of the deck is spirit creatures, and then a lot of our stuff will just make passive spirits, and our commander makes Offspring tokens. So protecting our board, pretty important. Also, spirits. Who would have guessed? Really good at protecting your board. Guardian of Faith, 1 and 2 white for a 3/2 spirit with Flash Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, any number of target creatures you control phase out. We already talked about Horizon Seed, which has its niche use cases in a game. Rattle Chains is a 1 and a blue 2/1 with Flash Flying that will give all your spirits hexproof until end of turn. And then, hey, look at that. You can cast your spirits as though they had Flash. Never mind. We have 2 uses of Horizon Seed. It's getting better by the minute. And then, of course, Selfless Spirit being a 1 and a white 2/1 flying. Sack it. Give your whole board indestructible. Again, like the other 2 decks, there is 2 cards in this case that I felt like couldn't not be ran in this deck. Impact Tremors is going to interact with the Offspring triggers, all the spirits we're going to be playing to ping people. It's also an enchantment, which will interact with the enchantment sub-theme we've got going on in here. Shared Animosity, though, is insane in this deck. 2 in a red, enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other creature you control that's attacking that has the same creature type. So if you have 9 spirits all attacking, all your spirits get +8/+0 when they're attacking. But anyway, here's a look at the deck's mana ramp, card draw, removal, board interaction, and mana base, as well as a look at 3 openers to see if this is a deck you'd be interested in. Like I said, you can find all 3 of the decks we talked about today down below with the Moxfield link. If you want to leave a like, comment, subscribe, helps out the channel a ton. You guys have been showing a ton of support, so I really appreciate that. But if you would like to show some additional support, you can head over to Patreon or down to the YouTube members tab. They both start as low as $1, and they really do help a lot. You know, if I've got 30 people all giving me $1, helps me get some dinner. So I appreciate you guys a lot. Anyway, I'll stop yapping your ear off, and I'll see you guys next time.